Hello, Sarah.
Hi, Louise.
You're looking exceptionally dapper today. You look very nice.
Back at you.
You have to go to YouTube if you want to see what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Boost for our YouTube. So we are discussing, as Sarah had just mentioned, Agency, Chapter 13, An American Baby by Gabrielle Glaser.
This. Oh,
Heavy.
speaking of books, we have three. We think these are our final choices, but you can squeak in as if you're a Patreon member, or if you want to become a Patreon member to squeak in with another fourth option. We're going to weigh it out. We're going to weigh this all out until, I don't know, maybe the end of the month, maybe before. So far, we've got in the running The Girls Who Went Away,
Mhm.
An Affair with My Mother, and The Baby Thief, which is about Georgia Tan, who has come up several times in this book. So
Yeah.
those are the three we've got going right now. If you want to add a fourth, if not, if you want to vote, please tell us, Patreons, which one of these books you would like for us to read first.
Yes. And you can become a Patreon to be in the exciting voting.
Yes. Yes, to have your voice heard, as
To
it
have
were.
exactly. If you want your voice heard in this,
Plus, the Patreon anyway helps us keep going.
it does.
We just like we squeak by each week because of the help of the Patreons. So
It's no small thing, is it, Sarah? It's like
yeah,
big
it's
for
not. It's
us.
really, really great. So
Well, Agency, this was big.
mm-hmm.
Several reasons why it's called Agency, but it was I thought, I mean, you're probably going to speak on it too, but right out of the gate, it talks about Alma, which I didn't know
Mm-hmm.
about until someone on our podcast had told us about it.
Actually, that was when I thought back to how,
Mhm.
when I was doing my search in 1998 for
Mhm.
my birth family, it turns out that Tilda had signed up for that.
For Alma.
And that was how and every time she moved, she would call and give them the address. So, and her phone number. So that was ultimately how my adoption agency found her. It just took longer because they did a deeper search for my
Mhm.
father, and he wasn't, as it turned out, wasn't alive, which they didn't figure that out. But anyway,
I had thought
yes, I
about
did
you with
know about it.
this. Yeah.
I just hadn't known the name of it back then.
I was
That,
thinking of Tilda in this, like searching for her for you. And
yeah.
it gives a different perspective reading this chapter. Okay, go on. What were you going to say?
Well, and that this was founded in 1971. Margaret, like
Mhm.
it was just super. Also, just bad. That early 60s getting pregnant was just there was just no way. She was going to face those all the obstacles, and finally the late 60s
Mhm.
and kind of more feminism and stuff that was going on. That the perfect storm to have this Alma happen.
Yeah. And the woman who founded it had a really profound story. Florence Fisher, who really
Mm-hmm.
was Anna Fisher, she found out, and she had been an adoptee. It was a sad story. Adopted by Russian immigrants, I think, and they were very cruel to her. She slept in a crib until 10. That kind of, there were some standout things that happened to her as a child that I was like, what the heck? And always referred to in Yiddish as a bastard.
Mm-hmm.
um, in her family, just awful to her until her mother got a bit older and they had some coming together. But I mean, she just really knew something was wrong and found a piece of paper digging in
And
her mother's drawer to help her that said something about her being adopted. And that was burned later, right? Her mother burned the piece of
but
paper.
but the name was burned into her memory. So
That's right.
and when this was the first story from an adoptee that Margaret ever heard, like she had just assumed
Yeah.
that Stephen was having a happy life and that he was okay, and she prayed for him every night, and she felt the big hole inside of her, but just thought, oh, maybe he has a good life, and this was the first time it occurred to her that maybe he didn't.
Maybe it didn't. Also, it made me sad because she would think, oh, Stephen's off at the Louvre or traveling with his ambassador family, just these things as adoptees. it struck me this time as, oh, adoptees fantasize that, right?
Right.
But the birth mother fantasized that as well. Like, oh, he's not just a good life, he's with better people than myself. Exceptional, I think is how,
Mm-hmm.
which made me sad because really no one was as incredible as Margaret, honestly. Um,
And she had a few of those kind of uh, moments that in which she started to see, like, she talked about these neighbors that lived near her that had
mm,
adopted their children, and she overheard someone saying to the mother, the adoptive mother, "Oh, you treat them just like your own."
cringe.
And the neighbor had said,
Evil.
they are my children. Well, I mean, Louise, that is what
Yeah,
people
horrible.
think at the end of the day,
Well, it's the
so many
comments,
babies
right?
are adopted because of infertility issues and
Yeah.
second choice. I mean, that's
It's
really what it boils down to.
and it's just so
You know.
cringy, like the things people like come out and say, and then and because kids hear that as they're older, not just when they're
Mm-hmm.
babies, they're listening.
Mm-hmm.
And she went off to this Alma meeting and heard Florence speaking and another woman speaking. And one thing that I highlighted here, she said, Florence said, adoptees are asked to forget about them, living a contrived identity in a contrived reality. Every adoptee, she insisted, has the right to pursue the truth of his own life, which was the first time she thought about the adoptee wanting to know the birth mothers. She didn't know that they'd want to know. She was hearing it from an adoptee. And so the wheels start spinning for her, a little
Yeah.
bit.
The thing that's just so, you think about, this was 1971. Adoptees and birth parents begging for records to be unsealed, and it's still a struggle in
Oh, yeah.
many states. And I mean, the narrative hasn't changed really.
No.
um
Our
Not much has changed.
not much has changed. Our friend Lorraine Dusky was
Is
mentioned
brought
in
up in
this.
here.
Yeah, and she sent us her book, A Hole in My Heart. And I listened to something on one of the fireside adoptees or something that I went on where she spoke. And she literally was getting hate mail daily from adopted parents. You are evil, you are ruining our lives, all because she joined Alma and started being vocal and putting things out in magazines and saying things and saying birth mothers would like to know their kids. And I mean, really, she got some visceral things. So they did touch on that here. And I was glad that Lorraine was brought up.
Yes. Then they did told uh Margaret, that birth number,
Yes,
in the state of New York. I think it was Megan, we had a
I think
guest
so.
that did this too, going to the library, getting that birth number, and, comparing, and she went through all the records. This was just such a, she would
Heartbreaking.
make up excuses to get into the city to the library. For months and months and months, she was just tireless in her search, and not ever realizing that Stephen/David was adopted 2 years later, not a year
Yeah.
later. So she went through, months of looking through
Yeah.
those records in that year, only to come to a dead end. And she was devastated and had one more idea in her,
Yeah.
which was to go to the Louise Wise agency and
And
stand outside. And
yeah, and she was smarter when she called them, like, I'm coming to talk about adoption. And
they're like, yes, come in, come,
come
we'll
in
let you right in.
anytime. Yeah. 9 to 5, we're here. We hope you show up. And then she shows up and says who she is at the buzzer.
I
And
gave up a baby for
yeah.
adoption. And
And they literally said, we're going to call the police and arrest you, and shunned her. And she called, what, 4 times? And then
mhm,
breaks down on the floor in like the fetal position, sobbing, all the stress of 17 years it had been, 17 plus. Because now
mhm.
he was now 20, Stephen/David. And that part just, it's just sad. Makes me cry.
They were just horrible. Like, they wouldn't even,
They
they
wouldn't even
wouldn't
open
even,
the door to her on a cold day.
no, just like, leave or we call the police.
And you know what was sad about too? She's saying into the microphone, I'm married, I have 3 kids. I just want to know that he's safe and give his health history. And like begging, this is a child you gave birth to. It's just like you said, it's just weird. It's not normal, any of this.
No.
I
Mm. So
know.
then that was kind of it. I think that Margaret broke in that moment.
Yeah.
I mean, she just when George was
Yeah.
diagnosed with a brain tumor, that was the first time she did not call the agency to tell them, because she knew that
Yeah.
that information would never get to him. It was just like that door was shut.
And by the way, another cancer that she
I know.
was, the family's full of big cancers, not being able to say. I mean, just the
Hmm.
whole thing. There was one line that it kind of goes back in a bit. It said the only thing Margaret couldn't take control of in her life was her shame.
Hmm.
Because she really was this amazing woman, strong through all of this, and an amazing mother and wife and caretaker to her parents.
And
Gertrude.
member of the community, and
Yes.
moving forward with these kind of progressive new ideas that were out there and being a part of it, and just mm. Well, it looks like next week. Oh goodness, I think I spoke too soon. We aren't going to have
Yeah.
we've only got a couple chapters left, so we've got to decide on this book.
I know. I was
Okay,
thinking that.
please everyone, reach out to us wherever you want, either social media, email us. You can leave comments on Spotify if you're a Spotify listener, wherever you are, Patreons, future Patreons. Let us know, like in the next week, what you would like us to read of those books that we've
I know,
mentioned.
because we're sort of torn. All three
We
look,
really are.
we
They
want to
all
read
look
all
so
three,
good.
but we're like, we will read all three eventually.
We've only got 4 more chapters, okay, of
And
this book.
then can't
So,
believe that maybe we'll get to meet
yes,
Gabrielle Glaser.
we're
All right.
hoping to have Gabrielle Glaser on
Be
to discuss
exciting.
this book. Very excited about that. Um,
All
okay,
right. Well,
next week is You Are a Man, is the chapter 14.
all right. And we'll see you soon with Terrie.
See you soon with Terrie.